Hey there, my name is Jason Bradley. You may recognize my voice from such places as the Community Solutions Podcast, which, by the way, you're listening to now. Before we begin, can I bend your ear for just a moment? We want to bring you the very best in quality and information each week. You can help us achieve that level of greatness. If you sell something, want to announce something, or try to convince others to vote for you, consider advertising on the Community Solutions Podcast. You can email us at commsolutionsmn@gmail.com, and we'd love to help you tell everyone about what you do. Once again, that's commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. Let us be your solution to increased sales. We thank you ahead of time for your consideration. Okay, enough yammering. On with the show. Back to school. It's a bad situation. What you want is an adult education. And we're here to give it to you. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. And we are gearing up for big old 4th of July. With me always, the firecracker himself, Andrew Richter.
Always great to be here. Never a dull moment on this program.
That's
my
sure.
friends, if you don't read the Sun Post, if you didn't watch Channel 12, if you didn't watch the news at night, if you didn't, watch CNN or whatever, who cares? You didn't miss anything. You missed this podcast. You miss everything.
That's true. That is true. We find the stories that they're not telling you, and I tell you, more often than not, we hear, oh, that's happening in our city. That's happening in our city. Wow, we just had that. We just went through that. And so this is going to be an amazing podcast. I'll just set it up that way now, and I'm underselling it. There's no way for me to oversell what we're going to go through. But as time marches on here, Andrew, I don't know how you have time for any of this. You've got a week of freedom left, and that's it. That's all she wrote.
Well, I'm happy about it. It's okay with me.
That's good.
A week of freedom. Okay,
Yeah. No, it'll be good.
Says the guy married for 21 years now.
Well, yeah.
Guess you haven't been free for a while.
I am now very expensive. It's true. So, wow. Green Step Cities. That's what we're going to talk about today.
We're going to talk about something I like. Other than the time we interviewed Jim, that's about the only...
That was good.
Yeah, I walked out feeling great. Every other show I walk out, heading straight for the old end of the bar or something.
Oh. Well, I think that as we keep doing these podcasts and people hear what they're not hearing anywhere else, that will be the case.
Great. And, just before we get going too far here, Green Step, why is this something that nobody ever hears about? I mean, stop and think for a minute. Mm-hmm. Why is this something that no one scrutinizes, no one looks at, no one challenges? Why doesn't it feel like you and I are the only two people on the face of the earth that have looked at this and torn it apart and said, WTF? Doesn't it feel like we are?
Yes, it does. We've been fighting this thing for how many years now?
I don't even want to think about it. Yeah.
And we were able to beat it back in Crystal temporarily, and it'll probably lapse, hopefully. And
well, they're not doing anything with it.
No, they're definitely not. Let me just, from their website here, so that you guys kind of understand what we're talking about. Website is greenstep.pca.state.mn.us.
Boy, that's a beauty.
Oh, that's a beauty. That's catchy. That's catchy like a Beatles lyric right there. greenstep.pca.state.mn.us. That's like Day Tripper. All right. Here's what it says. right at the top of their website. Minnesota Green Step Cities is a voluntary challenge, assistance, and recognition program to help cities achieve their sustainability and quality of life goals. But they do it with a one-size-fits-all.
Yeah, it's not theirs.
No,
that's
no,
it's Green
PCA's.
Steps.
Yeah,
it's implementing something.
Yeah. This free continuous improvement program, managed by a public-private partnership, is based upon 29 best practices or worst practices. Middle-of-the-road practices.
Yeah.
I don't know. Each best practice can be implemented by completing 1 or more actions at a 1, 2, or 3-star level from a list of 4 to 8 actions. These actions are tailored to all Minnesota cities. How can you tailor something to every city in Minnesota?
It's a total joke.
It's like saying, hey, here's a size 3X shirt. We've tailored it to everybody in Minnesota.
And we just think about it like this.
Yeah.
What did we just say last week about education? How no school can be everything to everybody. It's impossible.
Yes.
No private school, no public school, no matter how good they are, no religious school, can't provide everything to everybody. Yet what do we read on the top of the page of this nonsense? So again, everything we've been talking about in our case, for like 8 years now, we've been talking that this is all generated towards cookie cutter cities.
Yes.
Whether you're in Crookston or Worthington or Rochester or Little Falls, we want everything to be the same. Now,
Right.
Just start with that as the stupidest premise that you can possibly come up with. Because that's absurd. We're going to turn on the TV and everything's going to be the same everywhere. I mean, come on. Ridiculous.
It is. People don't move to greater Minnesota because they want an urban experience. People don't move to Minneapolis because they
want to live on a farm.
Or they want anything normal.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm just saying that's the most unnavigable city on the face of the earth.
Yes,
I think.
and it's done that way. It's that way on purpose.
Oh, it's crazy. But anyways, okay, to finish this out, so it's tailored to all Minnesota cities somehow magically, and they focus on cost savings, even though green stuff right now, there's a lot of it that is super expensive because it's not good technology.
Right,
yet.
and not to mention that when we get into all of this stuff, nothing in here is free.
Right.
I'm sorry, redoing all these streets, putting in all these high-density places, putting in all these new light bulbs, none of this is free.
No, none of it is free.
So I don't know what the hell they're doing about cutting costs.
Cutting costs, energy use reduction, encouraging civic innovation. I'm sorry, it's not innovative if you're having everybody do the same thing. That is called follow the leader. That is not called innovation. I'm sorry, it's like, hey, we got everybody driving a 1984 Ford Taurus.
And how many times do we have to say this?
Yeah.
The private sector is where the innovating happens.
It is.
Government has not created, can't create, they can't market, they can't sell, they can't do any of that. It's not what they're designed to do.
Right.
So, encouraging innovation. You want to encourage innovation? Cut my taxes and get the hell out of my way. Okay, there. Now you've encouraged me to innovate.
Right.
I mean, the simplest possible thing they could do, which is give citizens their liberty back, their money back, their freedom back. It's the opposite of what they push.
Oh, absolutely. And we've seen that. I mean, just today, I sent you a link to a story where in St. Louis Park, they're going to copycat their neighbor in Edina because that's what cities do, right? We've talked about it a million times. Edina just decided to move the age to buy tobacco to 21. Well, that is exactly what they're going to do here in St. Louis Park. It passed the first reading, and July 17th, they're going to vote on it.
The outcome's already predetermined.
Yes.
I mean, we're sitting here in St. Louis Park right now. Here's my question, okay?
Yes.
About smoking. We're getting a little off subject, but why don't we just make tobacco illegal? If it's so terrible for you, we know the reasons, because the government wants the tax money.
Right.
But, I mean, you're taking people addicted to a drug, and you are making them, you're ostracizing them, number one.
Right.
Number two, you're making it more expensive to get something. The tax is regressive.
Yeah.
So the poorer people are hit harder by this.
Yes.
You're making it illegal to smoke everywhere. Mm-hmm. You're raising the age to do it. Here's an idea. Why not make it illegal? Now, right. I'm not advocating that, but if smoking is so bad, if all you soccer moms out there, are so appalled when someone lights up a cigarette on their own private property, why don't we just advocate to do that? I'm lost.
I am too. I'm speechless because I thought that the goal of life in America is to maximize liberty, where you can live freely, especially on your own property, especially, whether that is your home or whether that's a business that you run, to be able to have full control of those things, and as long as it doesn't infringe on the liberty of another person.
Right. And don't people have the freedom to go one place and not go another?
Yeah.
Here's another thing. Think about it like this. We can charge a 14-year-old with first-degree murder in this state, and yet a 20-year-old can't smoke a cigarette in Edina.
Right.
Now you think about how off that is as far as how we treat people. On the one hand, 14-year-old is a total adult and knows everything.
Right.
On the other hand, they can't smoke a cigarette. So, I'm not advocating that they start smoking.
Right.
I'm just saying there's so much inconsistency in the law. Now, I'm off subject again here, but your larger point is right about the copycats and how one city does something in another. And it's nauseating to see.
That is all Green Step is. It's a copycat program.
Monkey see, monkey do.
Exactly. So I know that you kind of saw firsthand when this tried to come through Crystal. Why don't we talk about that a little bit?
Okay. Let me back up a second.
Yeah.
Here, because what Green Step, which is pushed by what's called the Minnesota Pollution, which you touched on.
Yeah.
Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. Well, we all know who they take marching orders from. The Environmental Protection Agency at the federal level. And I couldn't find it on my way here, but President Obama, and Obama isn't alone. I mean, the idea, this is a variation to me of cap and trade.
Yes.
The goal of this is to limit certain output, lower your carbon footprint, whatever that is. But of course, you can buy carbon credits. That's another. It's not part of Green Step, but it's implied.
Right.
So you can pollute if you pay for it, I guess. Pollution's okay, I guess, if you pay the government for it. But the former President Obama, pushed cap and trade back around 2010. He spent all his political capital on health care. And when Boehner was the speaker, they were able to stop implementing or stop the bill, the actual legislation. Might have been stopped in the Senate, but it was stopped around 2011.
Right.
Ever since then, President Obama, from 2011 to 2016, was trying to implement cap and trade through the Environmental Protection Agency.
Yes.
In other words, they were trying to change like CAFE standards, which they have no right to do as far as I'm concerned. What is it of them to try to force auto companies to make things at a certain mile per gallon? I mean, the free market's taking care of that. I've always argued that what happened in 2007 or 8 when gas was $4 a gallon, you bought a more fuel-efficient car.
Right.
That's what I did. I drove a car, got 30-something miles to the gallon.
Yeah.
So the market, anyway, but that's one example of things where Obama was trying to legislate without congressional approval.
Yeah.
And it's done through the executive branch. So the EPA puts pressure on or gives grant money or incentives or whatever to the states to implement. We've seen it with cool counties.
Yeah.
All of it's under the same umbrella. And so that's kind of where this really started to explode. I mean, this has been around for a while, but it wasn't until 2011 or 12 that this kind of grew and grew and grew and grew. And now 113 cities here in Minnesota are part of it. And a lot of them are cities right around us right now. Golden Valley is part of it. New Hope's part of it. And it's everywhere. It's out in CD6. It's out in 7. It's down in CD2.
Yeah.
It is nothing to do with Republican, Democrat.
No, I mean, we have places like West St. Paul, Winona, Granite Falls, Barnum, Big Lake, Hastings. These are all members of this program.
Right. So it cuts. And again, you have the phenomenon of people voting one way in the federal elections and another way locally, or not knowing who's running locally, or not paying attention. It's the same thing we keep harping on. But I saw firsthand how this happened in Crystal. This is under the old council.
Yes.
Okay. Basically, they got about a 2-page cliff notes on this at a work session. Discussed it for 45 seconds. Nobody asked a question. Nobody questioned it. Nobody thought of anything. It all looked pretty. It had beautiful pictures of deer eating, or wildebeest mating or something. I don't know what was going on. There was, this beautiful stream under a bridge.
Yeah.
And it was a great sales pitch. It kind of reminded me of the legacy money. Remember that? How well that was marketed back, whatever year that was. So, and it took people to, without getting into, I don't want to rehash everything that happened because informing people is more important, but I saw firsthand how little people on city councils did their homework, and it was being pushed by city engineer who was at the time was a green freak, and a global warming freak. I respected him; he was honest, but it was clearly there was an agenda being pushed.
Right.
And I've always said this: if some people don't know an agenda unless they study it, I'm one that's skeptical of everything.
Yes.
I mean, I don't take anything that anybody says without doing my own homework. But you can see how this can happen anywhere. Oh, yeah. What if there wasn't an advocacy group like this, and how this could get through a city council anywhere?
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, when this went through Crystal, I remember us asking, well, you guys have this great sales piece, but where is the other side? And they asked us to provide the other side.
I know.
What?
Yeah, I know. We had to go do their homework for them while they took home a paycheck.
Oh.
Well, it's just, I mean, we've seen this everywhere where it's laziness, it's wanting to conform to the system, and it's not surprising, but it's... I can see how this can get blown through, and how green stuff. Well, how can anybody be opposed to that?
Right.
How you don't care about the environment or something like that. I mean, that's the typical response that I would get sometimes when I would point this out. But what I'd say is, number one, you don't need to join a club. There's no benefit to joining this.
Right.
The big. I remember I was watching New Hope when they joined this. Yeah. Hey, you know what? The big thing that they pushed why to join this was recognition.
Oh, yes.
That was you get a nice little star, and everybody gets a participation trophy, and that was the big thing. You get recognition. You are taking green steps in your city.
Ooh. So you
are leaders.
Let me ask you, and those of you who are in New Hope, you can go ahead and email us at commsolutionsmn@gmail.com and let us know how good you feel about the recognition that you have received so far. Because you guys are a step 3 city. You reached that about a year ago now.
Oh my goodness.
So you guys are making huge strides. That's some huge recognition. So email us and let us know exactly how you feel about that, because I know you guys are probably ecstatic.
I want to see that ribbon too, and that trophy.
Oh boy.
Give me that third step.
Oh.
And the thing about this is, and we've talked about this when we talked about the Met Council and everything. This is all encompassing, and it's what makes this really scary. Is that there is not a facet of city or town life that is not, like you said, tailored everywhere.
Right.
So a city of 1,000, 10,000, 50,000, 200,000 are all expected to conform to this. And how about this BS that it's voluntary?
Yeah.
Oh, join it. It doesn't. I remember Crystal telling us this. Oh, it's not a big deal if we join. It doesn't mean anything. Really? So why join then if it doesn't mean anything? Why are you so hell bent on doing it?
Exactly.
If there's no real reason to do it. Tells me that's BS.
Exactly. You know, and they always throw these things out. Like, I remember Mark Hoffman saying, well, you'd be an idiot not to put in LED light bulbs. I save a ton of money. Last time I checked, I could go to Menards or Target and buy LED light bulbs. I didn't have to join a club to do it.
They don't necessarily save you money either. I mean,
No, they're expensive.
They're expensive. They do last a while.
Goodness.
But, yeah.
Oh.
But, you know, like you've said about solar before, which is a big part of this too, the technology just isn't there yet, and it may be in the future. But until it's cost effective for people to do this without tax credits, without whatever else, it's not going to happen.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of like, you know, in this country we went from horseback to cars, to trains, to cars, to planes. Okay, and it happened naturally.
Yes.
You know, the first plane that went up wasn't better than, you know, a train. I mean, it went up in the air and went right back down. I'm sure the Wright brothers were a little scared. But I mean, you know, the first car didn't go 80 miles an hour.
No.
It takes a while for this stuff to happen. You know, so
it does, and I imagine that a lot of this stuff in even 10 years is going to be amazing. But and that's if the government gets out of the way and allows the innovation to happen naturally.
Right, and it's the thing too. I mean, we've seen this with how they use the tax code, and you see all of these companies getting huge tax breaks. Walmart gets tax subsidies up the yin-yang for using solar panels. And Walmart, the biggest company in the world probably, or one of them, and we're subsidizing their solar panels.
Right.
Now, the same people, if that were an oil company, the same people praising this would be going nuts. Oh, it's corporate welfare. But what's the difference?
There is
But if you like it, it's okay. I mean, my solution is cut the taxes, close the tax credits, and let the market do this.
Absolutely, and that will force people to do better if they want to make a green energy product. You're going to have to do better.
Yeah, because it has to be sellable.
Yeah.
It has to be, like we talked about with Henry Ford with the Model T.
Right.
How did he get it? He wanted to sell it. My employees can't buy the products that they're working on. That's how it happened, and that's how it'll happen here. Now, when it comes to Green Step, okay, bring it back.
Yeah.
They have these best practices, you touched on it with New Hope, that they want to implement. What do you think? Let's just throw it out here.
Yeah.
And I know nobody can talk to us here while what do you think the best practices are? I mean, you know, if you've listened to our program for any length of time, we don't even have to tell you what the best practices are, and you're going to know the answer.
Right.
Okay, I mean, we're going to go through them. We're going to painstakingly. I know you're going to go want to walk into a truck or something, but our job is to tell you the truth here. And they break things down into like categories, and then they have sub practices under the. So where do you want to start, Jay, with what they want to do?
Before we get into that, and this ties into that, but you had mentioned about this whole cookie cutter thing with making small towns and big cities alike. I mean, on their website, they talk about Albert Lea, which isn't a big town. Yeah. They're in southern Minnesota off of 35.
Yep, right as you get out of Minnesota, isn't it?
Yeah, it's real close to the Iowa border. They implemented something recently called a parklet. A parklet. What does that sound like?
Is that like parklet is like a little park? You know, you got the park and then the parklet? You know,
a little bit.
Oh, okay.
No, it's where you take parking spaces and you turn that into a place for community to happen, for people to gather and be together. So you're taking away parking, and you're making
So if
a place
I'm
for
at
people to sit down.
so if I'm at Target, we will take part of the parking lot,
Yes.
not use it for Target for their business,
Right.
which they need to employ people and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have a party. We're gonna get together and play Duck Duck Grey Duck.
Yeah.
We're gonna
All right.
tailgate. What are we doing on that? We're gonna exchange cooking recipes. I mean,
Well, and right in the article it says that this is something usually only found in big cities. So again, it's talking about taking the big city mentality and bringing it into
what
the
big
small
city
town.
is that happening in, by the way?
I'd guess Minneapolis.
Okay, so they tailgate. What else do they do? College kids,
Yeah.
throw up and pass out in parking lots.
Right. Homeless people might sleep in a tent.
Yeah,
in
or under a
parking
bridge,
lot.
but- Where is that happening exactly?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I've never really seen this. But,
Now, does anybody at the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency challenge that statement or go, what the heck? Or
No.
Why would Albert Lee want that?
no, because part of the goals, and as we go through the best practices, we're going to see that limiting parking is part of that.
Parking
because
maximums.
They want to make sure that there's more room for bicycles, more room for community togetherness, more room for walkability. So
People that
it's
cartwheel
crazy.
and somersault.
Yeah.
All right, so where are we starting on this
We
here?
might as well start with buildings and lighting.
Start at the beginning like the yellow brick road.
I like
it's always
it.
best to start at the beginning.
Yes.
Right.
All right.
Now, you might look at number one, okay? You might look
Okay.
at number one and look at the title.
Yes.
Look how harmless the title looks. Mm-hmm. Efficient, existing public buildings. Well, does that sound terrible?
No, that sounds like something everybody would want. Who
Efficient-
likes inefficiency?
But now here's where I have a problem, okay? Number two, efficient, existing private buildings.
Right.
Whoa, wait a second here. Mm-hmm. All right, you want to put LED lights at City Hall,
Have at it.
I guess that's your choice.
Yeah.
And you want to put, whatever, I don't know, extra water fountains. I don't know what you want to do, scenery, shrubbery. But efficient existing private buildings. Now that sounds to me like a whole lot of city codes, a whole lot of requirements, a whole lot of permits, a whole lot of...
Regulation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it looks like a great title. I mean they put it all over. Energy reduction, water use reduction. But what if your business needs water? Mm-hmm. And of course you have to buy it from the city. Integrate building best practices, green building information into the building permit process. Now, what does that tell you? You're going to get the information. Guess what? Permit. You're going to pay for it. Mm-hmm. You're going to do it.
Yeah.
It's going to be more expensive, and we're going to charge you for it.
Of course. Why shouldn't the city make money off of it while they're making you do it?
No kidding. Absolutely. And I mean, I don't even want to read that. It's going to anger me some more. But new green buildings. Oh, new green buildings using LEED standards. Anybody know where that comes from?
Oh, leads? That's
I can't remember what it stands for. LEED.
Yes.
That comes from the UN.
Yes, it does.
Target Field is big in the lead.
Oh, yes.
Part of how they got Hennepin County to chime in was all these green, sustainability.
Yeah.
And here's the thing too: when it talks about it talks about city-owned buildings.
Yeah.
And it talks about private development projects that receive any kind of city support. In other words, if I'm going to create a TIF district,
Yes.
I'm going to hang regulations on you to force you to comply with our. In other words, they'll say it's voluntary, but it really isn't.
Right.
Because there's a carrot and there's a stick, and you have to do it, or guess what? We're not going to issue a building permit. That's how I read that.
Yeah, and what about, other types of carrots as well? Like, there's a lot of cities who will give a rebate for improving homes.
Yes, that's big.
Yeah,
big.
so...
And there are tax incentives through places like Excel that do that too.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Excel is a public-private partnership. I mean, they negotiate with the government so they can be the only provider.
Exactly.
So they're kind of a quasi-government program. I mean, they're certainly not they're certainly not relying on the free market.
No, they're a monopoly.
Yeah, it's absurd.
Yeah. Just to circle back, LEED is Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, and it's a rating system. It says here it was designed by the United States Green Building Council.
That's part of the UN, though.
Yes.
The Green Building Council came from the United Nations.
Yes, it did.
It's an NGO.
And it's to evaluate the environmental performance of a building and encourage market transformation towards sustainable design.
Great, but if you're encouraging it, how is it a market transformation?
It's not. you can't have it both ways.
Yeah, that's the opposite of a market transformation.
Yeah.
I mean, if they were, if they were like here's my question: who is LEED to come up with any standards and apply them?
Right.
Who put them in charge of building codes and made them the Bible?
But that's where everybody goes.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say I'm speechless at it because I'm never speechless, but you're right. I mean, and the whole building and lighting thing, LED lights. I mean, there are pros and cons to that. I think there's a cost-benefit analysis that should come with that. Mm-hmm. I don't know that LED lights are the best always for everything.
Right.
I think everybody needs to be free to sort of make that choice.
Yeah.
There's lights that are used more than others.
Right. I mean, if you've got somebody that sits on a pile of money and, they've got no worries and they want to buy incandescent bulbs because they like the way that they look, then by all means, people should be allowed to buy incandescent bulbs. They should be a choice in the market. It's just, you got to let people decide what they want to do.
Right, and not be doing it because somebody above is trying to tell you to. So that's building and lighting. That's the first part of it. Do we dare touch land use? Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We do. Because
we talk about it so much.
I know. Comprehensive planning. Folks, how many times have we talked about comprehensive plans and how important they are? To know, to study, to look at, to be a part of the planning.
Yeah, that really is. It should be a list of suggestions for your city on what they think would work best for your city, but it too often ends up being a dictatorial document saying, this is what we're doing. This is what a regional government tells us that we need to do, or this is what a county tells us we need to do.
It should be a guide, not a Bible.
Yes.
It should be, okay, if redevelopment were to happen here, what could we do with this?
Right.
What might happen? What might happen in the marketplace? If it doesn't happen in the market, you can't let an area get run down and get... I can understand government stepping in at that point and saying, okay, this is what do you call it? I can't think of the word for it, but blighted. This is blighted.
Yeah.
But I think that you're right. Too often it becomes, okay, we have this area here. This school might not be there in 10 years. Mm-hmm. If it's not there, we want it to be a senior building.
Right.
And it stops.
Yeah.
Then when that school closes, all of a sudden a senior building goes there.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, wait a minute. Why didn't somebody put a for sale sign and see what happens?
Right.
If nothing happens and the school starts falling apart and it's not well kept up, there's a role for government, I think, to play at that point.
Right.
But too often it is government first, last, middle, wherever, and then they try to steer toward the comprehensive plan.
Right, and there are a number of reasons for that, I think. I mean, in that example, you have public schools that try to shut out charter schools, and, there are things like that. But definitely, the comprehensive plan does have a lot to do with it, because you're not going to have somebody come in to an old school, buy it, open up a roller rink. I mean, it's just not... The city has too much control over the land use to do something like that.
I know. And it would have to be rezoned. There's other things that would go on right there, and the opinions of residents have to be taken in. What do you want to live next to?
Right.
I mean, I always pick on the Kavanaugh area. That's why I said that as a good example, because I remember when I was on the planning commission, the one thing, and when I ran for mayor, the one thing, it was kind of during that time, and I remember the one thing the only thing I heard with any unanimity was that they wanted to preserve the park on I guess it would be the eastern part by Twin Lake.
Right.
We want that park to stay. It's the only park in that area. Mm-hmm. We can't cross Highway 81. The kids can't do that. That's what the residents really wanted. Whether that became another school, whether that became an old folks' home, whether that became housing, it probably wasn't suited for commercial.
Right.
The only thing I got from feedback, and I dare say I talked to as many people as anybody could have over there, both as a candidate and on the planning commission, was we want the park preserved. Mm-hmm. So, that's one example, but we all know what happened. Mm-hmm. Became available from the school, they negotiated only with the city. What did the city do? Exactly what the comprehensive plan said.
Yeah.
So when we talk about Green Step going into your comprehensive plan, the intent is to do what is there.
Absolutely.
It's not, they don't look at that the way I would, as this is possibility. It's an idea, it's not a Bible.
Right. And, that's where the program stops being voluntary. As soon as that's in your comprehensive plan, it's happening.
It's there. It's not voluntary anymore.
Yeah.
How about resilient cities?
Oh, my favorite.
#resist.
#ICLEI.
Yeah, that is a term exactly borrowed from there.
Yeah.
And it's pretty scary what it says in here, because this is all about bringing in high-density housing.
Yes.
They advocate limiting the barriers to high-density housing. Translation, getting more high density, making it easier to do, easier to develop, incentivize it, put it in the comprehensive plan, put it in your 30-year plan or whatever. One thing that's happened, and we talked about this off air, but what happened in New Hope with this? One of the little things that you don't see written here is a lot of cities are changing the standards for what is considered low density, medium density, and high density.
Yeah.
It's done on a per acreage basis, and I don't know the exact numbers, but I know New Hope 3 or 4 years ago, right before they joined Green Step, basically implemented this practice here of because high density is unpopular with a lot of homeowners. They don't want to live by apartments. They don't want to live by crammed in mixed use.
Right.
So they've changed the standards so that, what I mean by that is that what was once considered high density is now considered medium density. So it's a little game that they're playing to make it more sellable, let's call it. So, but yeah, this is, provide incentives. It's written right in here for high density housing. Encourage higher intensity of commercial land use. What's that going to be? It's going to be, again, in the comprehensive plan, they're going to lay out who can and can't come here. Back to that again. Smart growth.
Yeah.
As opposed to dumb growth, which I guess is you and I. We're dumb growth. Oh, look at the next one, Jay.
Oh, boy.
Mixed use, your favorite thing.
Yeah, I love mixed use, boy.
The only mixed use I like is like a vodka and a cranberry. That's mixed use.
Wow, yeah. Chocolate chip cookie dough.
Hey,
you need a mixer for that.
Even better.
Yeah.
Mixed use, the old what is that? The old apartment buildings with the candy store at the ground level.
Yep, absolutely. And so your city's full of toothless people hopped up on sugar running around. It's crazy because I mean, again, it's just another form of high density housing where you might not have as many houses because you have the shops underneath, but you're still putting renters above stores, and so whether that's a 2-story, 3-story,
it's a way to cram people into smaller and smaller space.
Yep. People walk instead of drive. Right. Yep. You can limit parking spaces. There's so many things that you can do. But they seem to always call for this. I mean, not just Green Step, but you look at the Met Council's 2040 Thrive plan. You look at the 2016 Greater Minnesota Development Plan. Mixed use is called for everywhere.
Why do we need mixed use in a small town in western Minnesota? What do they need mixed use for?
I don't know.
What would be the purpose of it? You got towns with they got the town hardware store, the town grocery store, the town gas station, the 2 bars.
Yep.
They got some houses. They've got maybe maybe you got a school.
Right.
You've got maybe one big company where half the people work. What the hell do they need mixed use for?
I don't know.
I drive through Malacca, Minnesota.
Right.
What do they need mixed use for there?
They don't.
I drive through Garrison. What do they need mixed use for?
Could you imagine that? Let's
mixed use right on Lake Mille Lacs. Why?
Yeah.
I mean, but like you talked about, I mean, it is everywhere. And Greater Minnesota is pushing this as much. Look, you people who are out and 3 hours west of us, I guarantee you, look in your comprehensive plan, you will see mixed use somewhere.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
It's
in
there.
Any city of 1,000 or more. No question.
So we talked about it, and Mado's pushing it.
Yep. It's Mado.
Yeah. And so they're pushing it out to your local regional development groups, which are pushing them out to all the local comprehensive plans. So it's there, and
it's probably incentivized.
Yeah, it's about taking your downtown zoning districts and making these, they call them vertical mixed-use developments. They want them downtown commercial districts, near colleges and universities, in historic commercial districts. I'm sorry, but if you have a historic commercial district, don't you want that to maintain the feel that it always has had? Don't you want it to look like small town USA or whatever? And instead of looking like
it belongs in a city of 200,000 people. I mean, look, and let me say something too. There are places where mixed use, I can understand. I can see it.
Yeah.
But I can't see the need for it everywhere. What is the need for? I even go to going to Minnetonka. What is the need for mixed use in Minnetonka?
None. But in Minneapolis, I can understand it.
I can see it a little bit more. You got older buildings too. Mm-hmm. You've got things like that. You got St. Paul, where you've got Lower Town over there. But taking that and putting that everywhere, just kind of is head scratching. Mm-hmm. And and you're right. I mean, if I've been living my whole life in Aiken, Minnesota, there's a reason I haven't moved to the Twin Cities.
Right.
I don't want it.
Right.
Okay. So why would I want Minneapolis coming to me?
Yeah. And that's what's happening.
It's happening very slowly, generationally almost.
Yeah.
But it's like getting paper cut and paper cut and paper cut and paper cut and having a nail ripped off and then having an eyebrow waxed. I mean, it's like that. It's death by a thousand swords.
Yes. Well, and as we keep going down this list, I mean, it doesn't get any better. I mean, next it talks about efficient highway and auto-oriented development, and that's about creating corridors or clusters of roads where you're pushing the vehicles to, so that you open everything else up for use by bikes, by pedestrians.
It's trying to direct the cars to one place.
Yes.
You don't want cars here, so you're gonna, and we'll get into this when we get into streets, and road diets and all that kind of stuff. I guess the roads are overweight. You know, it's trying to get cars to one place and making people not drive everywhere else. Now, let me ask you something. I still am lost at that. Why would anybody want to do that? What's wrong with driving to the grocery store or to the Little League game? Or to, you know, if I'm going to go get groceries, it's sure pretty hard for me to walk a half a mile, catch a light rail or a bus, walk another half a mile, especially in the wintertime.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's hard for me to ride my bike and go do that. I want to go for a bike ride, that's one thing.
Right.
But going to work and back and going to do errands or drop off the kids or whatever, why is there this need to replace driving to do that?
That's a great question.
I think we know the answer, but I'm just thinking practically. What is wrong with taking my car that I paid for on roads that I pay for, and driving to go do that?
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it, but. You know,
how about you go play music? You got all those musical instruments. Are you supposed to take them on your bike?
I'll just wheel my amp down the street.
Go right downhill. Yeah, but I mean, it's the kind of thing where I just, you know, the Met Council has openly talked about how many cars per year they want to take off the road, and I keep going, why? Don't you want people? I mean, to me, I've always said this. Most people take transit because they have to.
Right.
Okay, I've taken the bus before. I'm not ashamed to say it. Not for very long. I took the bus a little bit when I went to North Hennepin, and I took the bus a little bit later as an adult for periods of time. I hated it.
Yeah.
Nobody on the bus was happy that they were on the bus.
No.
There wasn't anybody taking it voluntarily. You know, maybe voluntarily in that they didn't make enough money or whatever.
Right.
But, you know, to me, I don't necessarily equate driving with success, but if I'm out there as a successful person, if I'm making a lot of money, if I'm moving up in my business or whatever, what are you going to do? You're gonna spend the money.
Yeah.
You're going to buy a nicer house, which is probably further away.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get to work by riding your bike.
No.
So it's a natural thing to buy a car or a truck, or buy a boat if you like fishing. It's something that happens because you have the opportunity to do it. So what is the point of reversing that? Or discouraging it?
They think they can control emissions. They believe that emissions are a huge problem, and that by limiting how much you drive, they can control
But to limit how much I drive, you're literally going to have to implement like mileage maximums. How are you going to limit how much I can drive? I can go drive to California tomorrow if I want to.
Right.
That's called freedom, right?
Exactly. But they won't try to do it on the open road, but within a city they will, and that's where we get into this next section of living streets.
Oh, are they got a heartbeat?
No, I think they're probably on life support is more like it.
Yeah, and this is a bad one.
It is really bad.
Because, of course, it starts with our favorite thing.
Complete Streets.
Complete Streets.
So if you're not familiar with Complete Streets, it is making sure that you design streets in such a way that all forms and modes of transportation can use them. That's cars, that's buses, that's trains, that's biking, that's walking, that's doing the crab walk, that's walking backwards, that's rolling head over heels and somersaults. That it's ridiculous how far we've gotten. You know, Complete Streets. I mean, we're finding that people are trying to implement complete street policies all over Minnesota. Small towns, big cities. It's not just a big city thing.
And it's a big thing now in housing. They do this thing called a walkability score. I got friends who are in real estate, and they've told me that walkability is like the big buzzword now.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because housing is so subsidized through taxes, you know, the interest and all that, that every area now has, if you search for a home, it will have a walkability score, and it will highlight what's within half a mile, which of course is another thing from ICLEI and the UN and all that. What can you walk to? And that's a big thing that real estate is pushing. So this is a case where the private sector, in this case housing, is completely in bed with the government here, and they're working on this together. So, and yeah, this is where, you know, roundabouts are coming in, because that's considered a road diet. And you know, you see one roundabout, and you're like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Then you see one somewhere else. Then you see one somewhere else. It's not by accident.
No, it's to the point where you're driving in the middle of nowhere, and they'll have a roundabout.
Highway 7.
Yeah.
Out to Hutchinson.
Yep.
Where my grandmother used to live.
Grand Rapids, out by the hospital. It's...
Grand Rapids has a complete streets policy. That's where my cabin is. And you drive up 38, like you're going to Marcel, and between there and Lake McKinley, you have a complete street. Now, when I was a kid, that wasn't like that.
Right.
That was changed. That's the old part of town. And that was changed. Now they have bike paths. I mean, okay, I know people who live in Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
Okay. They snowmobile 8 months out of the year. Now, not that much, but believe me, they snowmobile more than they bike.
Yes. They do.
I mean, I've never seen anybody out there biking. I'm not saying people don't bike. I'm saying it's being put there because, not because the residents of Grand Rapids want it. It's being put there because they're part of some program that's pushing this or that. And they found a road that they could do this on, and that's what they did. And you're right. There's a roundabout right by the new hospital there, where it's on the way to Pekegama Golf Course. It's a roundabout just in the middle of nothing. I mean, it doesn't even make sense. And you know what I hate the most is you come up to a roundabout, and they're encouraged to what's called streetscape.
Yes,
which is to put little flowers, and little, you know. I don't know, scarecrows or whatever in the middle of it, and you can't see the other side. Cars whip around the side, and you don't know if he's turning or going straight. And it's like, why can't I see what's coming here? Why is there a hill with you know, sunflowers on it? I don't get that. What's the cost to do that and maintain it? You don't have a garden in a median out in on 169.
Oh, no.
Why do we have one on a roundabout?
Yeah, and you know, they got to pay somebody to go out there and take care of that, pull the weeds out,
City
water
employee,
it.
Somebody in Public Works.
Yeah.
It's just another thing that they've got to do. I don't get that at all.
Another thing they talk about on here is depaving. I mean, ripping up asphalt and depave.org, DEPAVE.org. These are a bunch of crazies out in Oregon, but it's all about their tagline, Asphalt Be Gone, and how to depave, the guide to freeing your soil. What? I didn't know that soil was oppressed. But, you know, it's all about restricting your ability to get around unless you want to walk or bike, which then limits your mobility because it puts you within a smaller your world is smaller. You know, you can't travel as far.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, go to the next one.
Do I have to?
No. Mobility options.
Oh boy.
Promote walking, biking, and transit. And look what it says at the bottom. The Minnesota Department of Health estimates that $495 million was spent in Minnesota in the year 2000 treating medical conditions that could have been prevented by regular physical therapy. Blah, 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 blah. I'm sorry. I come into a city implementing Green Step, and there's like 30 fast food restaurants there, and now they're going to tell me to increase my walkability?
Right.
Well, I'm going to walk right by McDonald's, Burger King, and but oh, hey, as long as you walk there, it's okay. Transit? Right. How is taking transit? How is sitting on a... You seen the people who ride a bus? Okay? A lot of them are not in good... You seen some of the bus drivers? Okay, some of them are not in great shape. I don't think taking transit is going to increase your, overall physical health.
No. Well, you have to walk to the bus stops.
Yeah, but I got to walk to my car too.
I know.
The thing is, I've seen bus drivers with a 72-inch waist. Okay,
yeah.
I don't think taking transit is really helping anybody do that.
No.
Launch an active living campaign. Oh, where have we heard that? Boy, we've heard
Hennepin
that.
County. Wow.
Yeah.
And not only there, but out in greater Minnesota.
Everywhere. Here's my favorite one. Implement multimodal transportation best management practice in the workplace for city employees. So implement multimodal. So what does that mean?
Okay, multimodal transportation is just various modes of transportation. Again, car,
in other words,
buses, bicycles.
Trying to get them to not drive to work.
They want to encourage you not to drive by offering options.
Oh, at whose expense?
Well, it's always at the taxpayer expense.
Oh, so we're going to do what? Pay for somebody to take the bus to work?
Yeah.
We'll cover that, even though I'm already subsidizing that by how much money?
Yeah, well, I know, like, a lot of people that work in downtown Minneapolis, companies will offer bus passes at a very discounted rate.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, I know that they try to create more spaces for bikes. Even the buses have room for bikes on the front.
Yeah.
Well, that's getting in shape. Let me put my bike on the bus, and then I'll take the bus to where I'm going and get back on my bike.
And I'll tell you, as bad as that sounds, promote carpooling or ride sharing among community members, businesses, high schools, and institutions of higher education. Now stop for a second. Promote carpooling and ride sharing. What does that indicate to me? City ordinances.
Right.
We're going to do something to punish you for not... I'm not sure how they do that. I have my ideas. But promote... So, my tax dollars should be spent promoting carpooling.
Right.
Among high schools. Last time I saw, the city is not in charge of the school district. Isn't that right?
That's correct.
So, who are they to tell high schools? I think they're already being bussed, so I don't know how much more efficient you can get. But what the heck?
It doesn't make any sense. But there are two ways that you can promote carpooling and ride sharing. One is through regulation. Right. So whether that's restricting number of parking spots, whether that's having a sane lane where you allow people, cars that have 2 or more people in them to go for free, or you do it through purchasing propaganda. That is the other way to go. Heavy ad campaigns, things like that. It's still all tax dollars that are being spent.
True. Oh, efficient city fleets. And by fleet, we don't mean fleet of foot here. Efficient use of city vehicles by encouraging trip bundling, video conferencing, which is a technology, of course, invented in the private sector, nothing to do with government, vehicle sharing, carpooling, right-size, downsize the city fleet. Now, that can be done. That's something that should be done, period. Phase in no idling practices. Really? There are a lot of cities who want to ban that. You can't leave your car running in.
Right. Remember, Crystal was discussing that.
They tried to
we were going to break into your car, hide your keys.
The police
teach you a lesson.
Police wanted to do it.
Yeah.
The council put a stop to it.
Yeah.
Phase in bike, foot, or horseback modes for police, inspectors, and other city staff. So I want to see that building inspector on horseback going over, horseback. And last time I checked, horses do certain things that are not the most clean.
You got to put a bag on their behinds, I guess.
Phase in biking for police. Okay, somebody robs a bank.
Yes.
And they get in the getaway car, and we're going to go after them on horseback or on foot or on bike. I want the name of the bank in the city. Call me John Dillinger, and I'll go in there and I'll figure out. That's what I mean. What?
This is badge number 3242. Yeah. Suspect has been apprehended. He is on my handlebars, and we are coming in.
We got a 1020 over at.
Oh, yeah, and it talks about further down. It talks about promoting, adding or expanding transit service, or promoting car-bike sharing. So is it really a city's job to promote Uber or like Nice Ride or Lyft or...
Well, again,
take a taxi.
Again, taxis and Uber, private sector companies that are there because the demand is there. They're there for a reason. People didn't call them. Mm-hmm. They don't need government to do it. They've developed apps and things like that the private sector has developed.
Right.
And they're there for a reason. You don't see Uber in a town of 300. Why?
Because
there's no demand for it. So again, that's why you can't take something like this and implement it everywhere.
It's true. But looking at this, so if they're promoting the use of car or bike sharing, what does that look like? They're using tax dollars to either run an ad campaign, i.e. propaganda, or they are giving money to these companies to help them to forward their business. They're giving preferential treatment.
Public-private partnerships, look for that in something like this.
Right.
Because somebody's going to benefit from this,
no
matter what. Oh, here's a favorite of yours.
Oh, good.
Demand-side travel planning. Now, we all know what that is. That's TOD.
Right.
That's transit-oriented development largely, which is where we promote transit in our development, i.e. discourage you from driving.
Yes.
Parking lot maximums.
Oh, didn't we mention that earlier?
Yeah, to make it... make it so you can't drive somewhere. Higher density housing, of course, always goes with something like this. LEED standards, once again, implemented here. So the benefits of TOD, enhanced transit ridership. Well, of course, transit's inefficient. Nobody wants to use it. Nobody goes on there, so we have to try to make them do it.
Right.
Greater choice of living arrangements and community lifestyles. Somebody tell me what the hell that is.
Well,
inherent safety due to increased eyes on the street. What?
Like literally, they want eyes on the street, or like figuratively?
Wait a minute. Let's listen to this one. Public infrastructure cost savings. Efficient and diverse land use. I'm sorry. Transit is probably the most inefficient infrastructure you could possibly put together.
Right.
Because it never pays for itself.
Exactly.
So how in the world is that a cost savings? Decreased congestion. Where around here have you seen that?
Nowhere. It's like, hey, let's redo 169. It's always congested. Let's keep it the same number of lanes.
Right.
They're doing a fantastic job with that.
Close it down for 2 years, and it's the same dumb road it was before. Yeah, I mean, and MnDOT coming out and saying, we're all built in the Twin Cities.
Yeah.
Not doing anything. We completed 610, that's it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if there's 10 million people living here in 30 years, which there won't be, but I'm just throwing that out there. We're not building another road. I'm sorry. MnDOT, who elected you? Who elected this commissioner of transportation to come out and say that? That guy should be dragged in front of the... If our legislature had any I'll use the word guts. They would drag him in front of there and demand his resignation and say, who the hell are you to decide this? Or they pull funding for it, but of course we have little kittens. We got the little kittens, scared of the governor. And outmaneuvered by him every single time. Oh, Jesus. Environmental management, oh, God.
Yeah,
and we all know what this is. Parks and trails.
Yeah.
It's
urban forests. Really?
Sustainable purchasing.
Oh, my God.
Adopt a sustainable purchasing policy. Purchase energy used by city government with a higher renewable energy percentage than required by Minnesota law. In other words, pay more for the same energy.
So, certify as a Tree City USA. I'd like to know what that is. I suppose it's a certain ratio of trees to people.
Probably, or trees planted or something like that.
A program by the National Arbor Day Foundation requires the city to establish a tree board or department, pass an ordinance on tree care, establish an annual tree budget of at least $2 per resident, plan an annual Arbor Day celebration, and 140 cities in Minnesota are certified as a tree city.
Oh, goodness. How about this one?
Yeah.
Require printing services to be purchased from companies certified by Minnesota Great Printers or by the Sustainable Green Printing Partnership.
Wow. So if ABC printers cost a lot less and would save your taxpayers money, but are not on the list, they're out. Forget it. We're going to go with the guy that costs 2 times more because he's on a flippin' list.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, there's other things in here about water, and we've talked about water being something where we've lost our private property rights on.
Right.
Because one of the things, this is part of it and everything else, that you have to be on government water. You can't use well water, can't use lake water,
right.
Can't use your own. They will not hand out building permits unless you are on the system.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. Organized garbage hauling.
Yeah.
Another thing being pushed here.
We've talked about that lately.
Oh, I like this one.
Yes.
Regulate outdoor residential wood burning.
Oh, boy.
I guess that's under local air quality.
No more fires there in your backyard. S'mores are out. It's all right. You're all getting too fat anyways. Time for active living. Oh. Do you like having the government in your backyard, on your meal plate, in your car? That's what's happening.
And I'll tell you this last part.
Yeah.
What is it? Economic and community development.
Yeah.
Everything in there is not horrible.
No.
But again, I go back to what is the role of government? Like one of the things they talk about is buying local, which sounds all great, but is it really proper for them to try to tell you where to go buy things?
No.
Okay, we've got Home Depot and we've got the local hardware store. Well, you allowed both to come in the city. Mm-hmm. So don't tell me to go to one over the other. I'll take my dollars and spend them as I see fit.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Isn't that what we should be doing?
Should be.
I don't see why. Why are you telling us to favor one business over another? They talk about growing local food. About having like a farmer's market, things like that. Chickens is another thing that we've talked. Okay, great. Mm-hmm. I can do that.
Yeah.
And I don't need to join a group to do it.
No.
We can implement that if we'd like to. We can get together as a community and get a set of standards to do that. We don't need to be a part of this to do that. So everything, like I said, I have no issue, and this is just me, and I don't know, Jay, if you agree or disagree, but I have no issue with somebody doing putting in a trail somewhere. If that's what a city wants to do. If the residents want a roundabout, okay. They want to pay for it and maintain it. It's their choice as a city. And you can vote out the people who do it, fine. But when it's being basically dictated from, I would say, higher than Washington, D.C., but I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
Down to Minnesota, down to the PCA, down to the Met Council, down to the city.
Right.
It really isn't the residents' choice anymore. And another part of this, they've copied the Met Council's. Government's gotten great. They do something very well.
Yeah.
They do one thing really well.
Spend money?
Okay, they do two things really well. Well, they don't spend money well. They spend it a lot. But the other thing they do well is make plans and then sell them.
Yes.
They don't. They make the plans first, then try to sell you on the plan.
Right.
It's not, okay, wait a minute, hold on. What do you want? No, it's not that.
No.
It's, but part of that is you will see that's sprinkled in this.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, complete streets is a great idea. What do we do? What's the toolkit say? We'll get a complete streets resolution. Mention all the good points that we tell you to say.
Yeah.
And then try to sell it to your community. It's not, okay, what are the pros and cons? Do we want this? Do we want to pay for it? Do we need it? Blah, blah, blah. No. That's not how you do it. It's, we have the plan.
Yeah. How
do we push this everywhere? That's the thought process.
Right.
And you will see that is what I tell you what, government, they're the masters at doing that.
Absolutely. And and a lot of it is you've got all these civil engineers and people that they need jobs and they've got to get paid. So today it's roundabouts. In 15 years it might be four-way stops. And then in another 15 years, it might be back to roundabouts. It's crazy, we keep going through these cycles.
They have to justify their own existence.
Yes. And so there's always going to be something else to spend your tax dollars on because, we're never going to get to a point where I think we've done everything. We're good.
Yeah, we got enough tax dollars. We don't need more.
I think we've made all the necessary updates. We don't have to do anything else. We've arrived.
So let me bring this full circle here.
Okay.
Let's say
full roundabout.
Let's
do it.
Yeah, we'll do the 360. Jay, let me ask you this.
Okay.
I'm in a city. I'm just being person A. My city's debating Green Step, or my city's already in it.
Right.
Or my city might be next on the list. What do I need to do? How do we stop the growth of this, or help cities who are already in it and trying to, maybe a city like follow Crystal's model where it passed, we can't do anything about it, let's just not do anything and ignore it. What is the best way other than just educating the public, which I'm sure that's part of this?
Yeah, it is
maybe
part
the number
of it,
one thing.
I think part of it is also educating the lawmakers. I mean, like you said early on, or I said, or somebody said, the city council gets something in their packet for a work session that's handed from the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency to city staff. City staff puts it in the packet. They read this sales piece and think, this is great, let's do it. There is no counter piece. There is no pro and con. There's just pro by a bunch of cons. And so here is the rub, is that there is no other voice being presented, and so because of that, they implement Green Step. It is in 113 cities in Minnesota out of 800 plus, because there is no counter. So part of that is just all of y'all being super cognizant of what this program really is, reading the website and being prepared. That's all we did. We read the website. We read the website, and we went to a city council meeting and went, what?
Yeah.
Have you read this? Do you know what's in it? It has this. It has that. It has this. And they all were kind of like, oh, we haven't really read the website.
Yeah, we got blank looks.
Yeah.
Like we were speaking Swahili.
I mean, we got people to at least abstain, if not like table it, that I never would have imagined getting to table it in a million years. I mean, you had the mayor for it, and you had the mayor's husband who
eventually voted for it.
But at that point in time,
I think he was embarrassed he didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, it's kind of like, hey, you know what? I don't want to be responsible for this. I don't know what the hell.
Yeah, he slept on the couch that night.
Right, and you had somebody like Janet Moore who changed her mind.
Yeah.
I mean, Janet even admitted that she only read what it said about water.
Yeah.
And as dumb as that made her look, and Janet was a really nice lady.
Yeah.
As dumb as that made her look, she voted no, saying, you know what? I didn't look at this. Hey, I respect the honesty.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, hey, look, you know what? I did. And, Janet was on her way out. She could have just voted for it and would never have been held accountable for it. So, you're right. I think that it is going to, but I think the fear I have is that this is going to go under the radar in too many cities. That in a city where you can make a big stink, and even if you have just an open-minded city council, and here's the other thing, you can beat it back for a year, for 2 years, or 4 years, something like this will come back up at a time where they think it's palatable for it to happen. And if you got an environmental quality commission, you need to fill that up with people who are going to tear this apart.
Right.
Because that's one of the problems I had with the councils. They bypassed, at first, when Jim became the mayor, it went to the commission and they stonewalled for 2 years.
Yeah.
But they bypassed the environmental quality commission, which is not a friend of ours, but they would have shook this out a little bit and just tried to. They wouldn't have done that if it was a planning thing, or they wouldn't have skipped the planning. I was on that commission. They wouldn't have skipped that. If it was a charter change, no way would they have skipped the charter commission.
Right.
They would have gone through what they go through. I mean, when they implemented the chickens, that went through the environmental quality commission.
Yeah.
Joining this didn't.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so, I mean, it just goes to show how routine they thought this would be, and how they didn't think anybody would show up and make a stink, and they could put this on the agenda and push it right through, and they found out that was not going to happen in Crystal anymore.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, I think you're right, and I think if you're one of the 600-ish cities or whatever that's not a part of this, you're the people who really are the firewall.
Yeah.
Because it could stop at 113, and some of the cities involved are doing stuff, some of them like Crystal aren't. But the firewall, this is going to keep going, and it may grow slowly, but these people don't care how slow this grows.
Right.
It's like the people who want single-payer health care. They don't care if it comes incrementally.
As long as it comes.
Right. So you're the firewall. You've got to check if your city's a part of this. And even if they're not, they may be implementing things. I guarantee you they are. I guarantee you look at the comprehensive plan and you see half of what we just talked about.
Yeah, absolutely. And because that's being passed down through regional government, which is being passed down through national associations. And so you've already got this stuff in there. So it's just... Sometimes it's just a formality of joining this, for the recognition of it.
And I've heard it sold that way by city staff. It's like,
we're already doing a bunch of this
we're already doing this, so why don't we just keep doing it?
So, is there a good way to stop it? A lot of it is just being vigilant and going to your city council and saying, hey, I learned about this, and this isn't okay by me. And some of it's telling your neighbors and dragging them to city council with you, writing, calling, emailing. you just got to make a general stink about it.
All right, I think we've given everybody. You go to that website.
Yeah.
Do you think we're full of BS?
Again, that's greenstep.pca.state.mn.us. And go through it. I mean, we have only really scratched the surface.
We could do a whole show on each one of the 29 best practices.
We could. How would you guys like that? Let us know. 29 shows on Green Step Cities. I think I would want to jump off. If this wasn't on the ground floor right now, I'd jump out the window.
I'd jump out the window. I wouldn't go anywhere.
So, again, this is happening everywhere, this stuff. If you are noticing, if you hear that they want to put in Green Step in your city, or you're noticing something else, they want to raise the age to buy tobacco, they want to decrease the availability of plastic products like in Minneapolis, whatever it is. You notice things in your city, please let us know. You want to run for something, you want to get on a commission like an environmental quality commission, a planning commission, let us know, let us help you out. If you work with a group and you want training on how to implement this stuff in your city, we're putting that together currently. We're going to come around Minnesota and we're going to be doing some of those trainings. So just let us know. Email us at commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. That's commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. We'd love to get your story out there, touch base with you, help you out where you live. Also, keep abreast of our blog at commsolutionsmn.com, and we're always putting new stuff up there, telling stories as people get them to us. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, all that stuff, so just go find us. And we just thank each and every one of you for the support you give us, for the stories you feed us, for just being involved in your cities, because we can't do 800 cities on our own. It's us helping you help yourselves across Minnesota. So I want to say thank you on behalf of Andrew and myself. Have a happy 4th of July, and we're going to talk to you again in a week. So take care, and so long.
If I get too caught